Thank you very much, sir. Dear noble colleagues, Mr. Chairman, the past president, and the chairman of BOT. And I also like to stand on the existing protocol as we have started this journey since morning. This afternoon, we'll be looking at some topics around compensation and some issues that we have been trying to resolve as valuers over a while. And then I have we have practitioner, we have a permanent secretary among the panelists for us to have a robust discussion. Thank you very much. I would like to, my question is across to the three that are present. That is, let's lay the background of compensation valuation. Yes, Vibuba.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
let the ball start rolling from your side. I want us to lay the foundation. What is really the foundation for that,
Okay.
so that we can have the grab? Thank you.
Thank you. I beg to rest on the existing protocol. Um, the issue of statutory compensation valuation, when you talk about compensation, or the template rather,
Yes.
you have to look at what precedes the template. Nigeria, as a country, we have infrastructure and housing deficit. Government must provide this or fill up this deficit. And as such, land must be acquired by government to provide the much needed facilities. In providing these facilities, they have to acquire people's land and pay compensation. And as we all know, compensation valuation is statutory in nature, which are guided by provisions of the law. If you look at what we have currently, the law governing compensation in Nigeria is the Land Use Act, which has made provision for the heads of claim under Section 9 or 29 of the Act. So the template that we must have, or we have, must reflect what is provided for in the law. Prior to 2008, all states of the Federation have different ways by which they carry out their compensation. There is no uniformity in the practice. That informed the reason why the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development in 2006 set up what we call the National Technical Development Forum, so that the various states of the Federation will harmonize the rates paid for compensation, at least within their contiguous zones, in the 6 geopolitical zones that we have. The National Technical Development Forum organized a series of workshops in all the 6 geopolitical zones. I remember the one in the Northeast, which I participated personally. We had one in Gombe, Gombe State, and another one in Yola, that is Adamawa State, which culminated into a national workshop where all the rates from the zones were tabled and accepted. And from that 2008 to date has become more like the working document that we have. However, there are a series of complaints regarding what are contained in that template. People frown at the rates that are used for crops and economic trees, which many argued have no basis in the provisions of the law that we have. And in their thinking that the appropriate officers should come up with something that is realistic, looking at the current economic realities that we have in the country. Unfortunately, the appropriate officers are civil servants. They cannot on their own just effect changes. We need policy documents. In that regard, we need rules and regulations. And I'm happy to announce that currently, the activities of the NTDF, that is National Technical Development Forum, have been resuscitated. Currently, we are on the review of the template, the valuation template. All states of the Federation, that is the directors of lands, are expected to make input. And what we have currently is a reflection of the earnings of members of this noble profession, that we should move away from fixing figures or rates for economic trees and crops. Say, mango, this amount of naira per stand, or maybe rice farm, so amount of money per hectare. We should make compensation to reflect the market or fair market values. And that is what we are doing currently. I will seize this opportunity to inform members that we should reach out to our various directors of lands who are going to make this input, so that they make correct inputs, at the end of which our people will not be shortchanged. We'll be able to pay exactly what compensation is meant to do, which is putting the project affected person in a state they are before the acquisition takes place. I think that is basically, thank you.
You are a practitioner, you are not a civil servant. But I want you to look at it from your own view. Like you mentioned rate, that they are reviewing the rate, but do you think the rate really impacts on the good being of the claimant when applied?
Thank you, sir. As the director said, the rate, it is what the law says according to Section 29 of our Land Use Act. And Section 29 of the Land Use Act cannot work on its own without Section 28. How we go through the process from the acquiring through Section 28 to 29 of the Land Use Act, both must work in conformity. The Land Use Act set up and gave us the template itself through the appropriate land officer, which has to be the director of lands from the state, while on the federal, it should be director of lands in the federal ministry. Now, he said the rate is being reviewed. Yes. In my state, where I came from, Anambra State, I'm also one of the team members of the review of this rate. My position on this is we should look at the market value of all these economic trees in our judgment, because there's no compensation that is adequate. Even though if you value it based on market value, it can never be adequate, because we don't look at the heritage, the social, the economic that attach to that property or the land where you want to acquire. I did a job some time ago where a shrine is within the right of way, and the family said they cannot remove this in Edo State. It caused the former governor, Adam Oshomole, to intervene in this acquisition. How do we relocate this? How do we value this? There is no specific template to value a shrine rather than to appease the gods. How will you appease the gods? Is it by bringing the crocodile or by bringing a cow, tortoise? As they mentioned to us, which it is not part of what we do as the rates. The governor come into it and they did the sacrifice, did whatsoever they want to do. Overnight, that thing disappear in that place. How will you place value on that? That is, if you go through my presentation, my book, or my what I write, I said there's a special value for what we do in valuation for compensation. That is the area we have arguments with the appropriate land officer. When we come to the field, they become demigod when we come to the field. And it's a thing that we need to put professionalism into everything that we do as regards compensation valuation. There is no specific way of going into compensation without adequate compensation value.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Like you rightly mentioned that there's no adequate compensation. ESV Shola Enito, the governor has the right, to acquire, the acquiring authority. In your view, what do you think should be the role of the acquiring authority, especially when it has to do, the choice of paying compensation or settlement?
Okay, the two are different. Settlement is actually consideration. So consideration need not be adequate. But where the Land Use Act has mentioned compensation, compensation must be equivalent, and it cannot make the party that is being forcibly acquired, whose property is being forcibly acquired, cannot make that person worse off. So in any situation where such a person is going to be worse off, that person has not been given compensation. The acquiring authority owes society a responsibility to ensure that a singular individual does not carry the sacrifices of the rest of Nigeria. In a situation where you are acquiring the property of an individual, the acquiring authority has a responsibility to ensure that there is an even spread of sacrifice, because you are asking someone to give up his property forcibly. If that person is making a sacrifice, the person must walk away smiling rather than crying. That is the responsibility of the acquiring authority. If you look in the preamble of the Land Use Act, because I can see that a lot of our brothers in the civil service, they have a tendency to think, oh, the Land Use Act does not make provisions for some things, and so they will not, for example, land. If you look in the preamble, the very essence of the Land Use Act is in the preamble. And in the case of Yakubu Mohammed against Simon Obaje, the Supreme Court clearly said that the fundamentals of what should be compensated for in the compensation exercise is fully stated in the preamble of the Land Use Act. So it is from that preamble that every head of claim ought to emanate from. And the body of the act cannot contradict the very spirit of the letters of the act. The essence of the act is stated in that preamble. If you can just open to the Land Use Act and look at the preamble, there is a place where it says that every Nigerian is entitled to make use of land and to derive the fruits, to enjoy the fruits of that land to its fullest for the settlement of his family, for the satisfaction of his family and others. I am not quoting it verbatim, but if somebody can see that preamble, the very first, where he says, whereas, there are two whereases there. The second one, you will see it there. It addresses the fruit of the land. What will we say will be the fruit of a land, of a parcel of land? I think if you have access to land, the fruit of the land will be the things you grow on the land, or the appreciation in the value of the land, which means that the appropriate authority, the appropriate officer, owes the acquiring authority the truth and the honesty of judgment to ensure that proper valuation is done. Stemming from that, if you look in section 44 of the Constitution, it clearly states that every Nigerian is entitled to own property. Okay. And they are to be compensated for both movable and immovable properties, which means the acquiring authority has that singular responsibility to ensure that those from whom you are taking properties must be properly, reasonably, and justly compensated.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to go back to ESV Buba. In a situation the government is trying to acquire land for infrastructure, and the compensation, maybe by the time you do the compilation, and the compensation is more than the project, what do you think should be the role of the appropriate officer in that regard?
You mean the money to be paid for?
When the compensation is more than the project, to execute the project itself?
It's left for the authorities
I'm taking this, most times the government will tell you that they can't pay you the compensation because it's more than what they budgeted for the project. That is the argument. So, and I'm looking at it that if you want to go by the rule, then what should be the role of the appropriate officer?
Well, the appropriate officer's role is to determine what is the amount of compensation payable. But, this is a democracy. And in this system of government, anybody can become your superior officer tomorrow. Just anybody. For a project, I think for the government to embark on a project, it presupposes that they should have done some little analysis. Maybe the cost-benefit analysis of the project, or feasibility and viability studies must have been carried out. These are things that will have given a clear indication whether to proceed with the project or not. And as the appropriate officer, all you can do is to advise that this project, from the narration you just made,
yes,
it means it's not a viable investment or project, except if it has some social benefits. If government has a social responsibility to its citizens, sometimes it's not just about the money. It may provide some social services. I wouldn't know what the aim is, but I think that is what should be done. We need to carry out studies before we embark on projects, before, not that we jump into the river before trying to see whether we can swim or not.
Thank you very much. Yes, Viraji, I'll put the same question to you, and maybe by the time the government look at that scenario and then pleading with the claimant that, please, because we have this kind of situation and we want to provide you infrastructure, can you please give your land to us?
Yeah, thank you. One thing that government don't do, again, it is to do reconnaissance survey before they engage on projects. If they do that, they will know that what they are budgeting may not be adequate for the project on aspect of claim. By the way, based on what you just said, we also had a project where what we submitted as the claim to the government after being approved by the appropriate land officer in the federal ministry. You said there is no money to pay for this. Invariably, it is also your project. And Enugu state government pleaded to the owners of all those economic trees, crops along the right of way, and they said, we need this road more than this money. Please, can you provide this for us? The appropriate officer told them, kindly put it in writing. And they did. In that case, there is no payment of compensation on the affected crops because it is a form of donation by the community. What do we say to that?
Well,
Because the budget is insufficient to the total claim.
okay.
And the government pleaded to the community. And it was granted.
Thank you.
This is part of what we see in the practice.
Thank you.
I have a response.
Yes, we shall learn it all. I want you to look at this issue. We do have the consultant, then we have the so-called attorney to the claimant. What do you think should be the role of the attorney? Well, most times they rely on the report of the consultants. They don't have their own independent report. So, are they truly representing the claimant?
The truth of the
Just
matter
collect fee.
is that the responsibility to assess compensation was squarely placed on the shoulders of the project affected person. The person whose property you are acquiring is the one that the Constitution says should be given access to determine his interest and to also present to
it's a
court
controversial.
where there is a dispute for the assessment of his adequate compensation. Government often muzzle the public, stress them, forcibly acquire their interest, terrorizing them to hand over property. It should never be said that a government acquiring property does not have a budget to cover, because it shows that the government has not done the right thing ab initio. Environmental social impact assessment or analysis would have shown every cost that the government needs to bear. Why should the government tell the people that we cannot pay compensation? It should never be said. However, in a situation where the government now says they are doing enumeration, all they are doing is that the consultant is to go and assess what they need to pay for. The consultant is consulting for a party, the acquiring authority. The party that is being expropriated also has that fundamental and constitutional right to determine his interest and say, this is the value of my interest. And because that person is the only one who can actually establish what we call market value, because there is nobody who will go and do the determination of his own interest and use a federal rate or corner rate.
I think
Esvarbon, let me say that we owe ourselves guidance. And the only person that can guide us is the Estate Surveyors and Valuers Registration Board. Our act is not just a registration act, it's registration, etc. There are a lot of things that the guidelines, that the Esvarbon can do to guide the profession. The appropriate officer is a valuer. The appropriate officer, well guided, will do the right thing. And I think that there should be that balance at all times, where the project affected person has his or her own consultant, has an attorney who is either, most probably well good, a valuer who can do the valuation of the heads of claims and present the same.
Thank you very much. Yes, Buba.
Yes.
You know, many times you see that the consultant you engage will also be the one that will build the attorney for himself. I want you to speak to that area. You are the one that hold the knife and you are the one that hold the arm. And you know, many a times they say because they want the work to just be done. Is that ethical?
You mean the appropriate officers? Or
No, the consultant that you engage.
okay.
You know, you
Okay, you
engage
double
the
as the
consultant,
okay. I get
and
it.
the same consultant will be the one to build up the attorney by himself.
No, I don't think that is the right thing to do. It's unethical. Means the person can easily be compromised. You know what? It shows that there won't be any checks and balances. So the appropriate thing to do is to separate the consultant from the attorney, so that at least there should be level of transparency and checks and balance. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much. Yes, Viraji. I know you are a very good coordinator when it comes to that. What can you say to that?
Well, my own
And
view,
the way forward.
my view, it's for every claimant to have their own valuers to present valuation report to the acquiring authority or to the consultant. But it also looks like in agency, you want to buy a property, the person is your friend, and you need to collect commission from this person. You call your colleagues, oh boy, I have this client I want to buy this property, please send me this. At the end of it, that fee is still coming back to you indirectly, unethical. We don't need to collect double fee in anything we do. It's the same thing as what you ask. A consultant representing the acquiring authority and also representing the claimant. Integrity is put to test in that area, and it shouldn't occur in anything that we do. And if we see something of that nature, Estate Surveyors and Valuer Registration Board of Nigeria should enforce a law that will guide us in that area, so that professionalism and justice will speak for us as a valuer. My thoughts.
Thank you very much. Yes, we shall I need to. Looking at the scenario that we have a case in the board, I think about 2 or 3 years ago now, that somebody signed power of attorney for a different firm, and within a short while, another valuer approached the person and they cancelled the other power of attorney that he has signed. And there's kind of a struggle within. The appropriate officer was unable to identify who is the true attorney. What do you think as a framework that will be able to guide us to that?
Okay, thank you. A power of attorney can be temporal and it can be permanent, as in irrevocable. You have the revocable power of attorney and then you have the irrevocable power of attorney. Any power of attorney that is to be given to a consultant, a valuer, to go and help process a claim, that power of attorney must have a life stated in it until the claim is received by the project affected person. There must be that lifeline so that the person holding that power of attorney is not, short-circuited along the way or dispossessed of his effort along the values of his effort along the way. The power of attorney must state the tenor. When is it going to expire? It will expire on the day that the check is given to the project affected person. So where you are holding a power of attorney and the project affected person now, does another thing by giving a power of attorney to another person, that second power of attorney will be null and void. what we do is that we also take the project affected person to swear to an affidavit in court stating several, making several statements which will further strengthen the power of attorney and also ensure that the person given that power of attorney, the attorney, is not dispossessed in any way along the line. You have to find a way of, protecting yourself, because it costs a lot of money to process claims. We are doing a couple right now, and we have to advance to court. And advancing to court, we're going to spend about 12 million naira for fees alone. So how would you be doing that and then somebody comes at the back and says, I also hold? So the appropriate officer who is handling, or the representative of the acquiring authority, should honor the first power of attorney as against the second one. If the person has not instituted in that power of attorney that he can terminate it at any time. Yes. Okay. When that is not stated, then that first power of attorney
can go.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, we move on. Yes. Most of this compensation we are talking about, many times they are not paid immediately. And as an appropriate officer, don't you think the time and the inflation should be factored in when you are compiling your compensation?
Ideally, of course, that is what should be done. But the problem with some of our government's officials is that, I give you a case. We have cases as far back as defunct Gongola that are still not yet compensated, or some dating back to 10, 20 years. Government will just come and ask you, this is a compensation of so place that has not been paid. How much is the money? You tell them that as at 1999 is so amount of money. The next thing you will hear is that come and collect the money and pay these people. I just give you a fair example. Yeah. Recently, we have a case like that. There is a college of nursing which was constructed around 2008. When we did the assessment, the government had no money to pay immediately. The then governor called the project affected persons and pleaded with them to give him 1 month so that construction work will commence immediately and they will pay the next month. Yeah. And because of the money involved, it was agreed the payment will be in 3 phases. They paid the first phase quite okay, and the second phase, but the third phase from 2008 to date has not been paid. So when they came asking about the balance of the compensation, we made it known to them that this is the money that was pending as at that time. So we need to review it, either reassess it completely or add, the interest rate for the delayed payment over all this number of years. So this is ideally what should be done, but government, being what it is, sometimes they listen to advices, some they don't. That's how things go.
Thank you very much. Yes, Raji, what do you think can be, they are internal, but what do you think can be the help, the push from the outside as a consultant to your claimant?
Yeah, thank you. I will cite example of a job we did during Peter Obi in Anambra State. My firm did. And our value came up to, say, 800 million. And they said they would pay us 220 million. I said, never. Fortunately, we are dealing with UAC. Royal Niger complained, they own parcel of land in the market and gave it to us to handle for them. Anambra State acquired it. We stand by our value, The appropriate land officer did their own. They said 240. They came up to 280. I declined. I went to court. I got a judgment from court. They challenged the judgment. We got judgment again. We fought this matter to a level that they set up a committee to reconcile with us. After the judgment, we want to garnish their accounts. That was when they wrote a letter to us that they will pay 50% of what our value said. I said, no, 12 years ago. Now, what is the tendency? But my clients were in that meeting. They said, Raji, Kobo Bego, 1 naira that we see now, that the government want to pay now, why can't we take this? And I said, put it in writing. They said, no, Raji, you are too stubborn, you are this, that. I said, no. How will you expect me to be talking to UAC orally? Please, put it in writing the way and manner you want to make this payment. Fortunately, Soludo, Peter B went, Obiano went on court matter. Now, Soludo came in. Fortunately, the Honorable Commissioner for Lands has to be a son. He called me, Raji, let's settle this matter out of court. I said, we've already written to garnish the account. He said, no, please. They called the Attorney General. They called meeting and they write that letter that I've been demanding for. They said 50% will be paid so time. After 3 months, 50% will be paid. I get back to them that let me discuss with my clients if they agree on these terms. And they eventually did, and they wrote back, it is correspondence. And the money was paid in full, though no interest on delayed or payment. But we got what we're supposed to get. Assuming we have consented to the 280 that they're talking about, it was fully paid, sir.
The president will know your fee.
And what I'm trying to say is we should also look at reconciliation in some cases if they give room to that. But most of us are so lazy that let me get this money and move. Let's go to court and challenge these people. The Land Use Act has already given us the template through the appropriate land officer. That alone is an instrument. He also said about the delayed payment of compensation.
Thank you very much.
By that, we achieve it.
Thank you very much. Don't you think we should look at our clients, body language when we are dealing with them? Because like the scenario he painted, a client can tell you that, I beg, let's collect the 280 and move on. Don't you think it's also necessary for us to really study and educate our client to be able to be patient to really get the real deal?
Absolutely. Patience is a virtue. And for anyone that wants to get value for whatever you have, it talks about willing buyer, willing seller, giving time, for transactions to be processed in an open market environment. So when we are patient, of course, things like that will happen. We need to counsel project affected persons in order that they do not ambush you. Because the project affected person also can become an ambusher of every intent, every good faith intent that you want to do, you want to carry out. So it's important that we inform project affected persons that getting compensation takes time, getting it just and fair takes time. You may need to go to court, and if you go to court, it would also take time. But I see a way out of this, and I put it back squarely on the laps of Esvarbon. Esvarbon is in such a position by its act to resolve a lot of these problems. The act says where there is a dispute, a court, an appropriate court, or the Land Use and Allocation Committee should look into it. The people who are going to sit at the Land Use and Allocation Committee will include an estate surveyor and valuer. An essay surveyor and valuer is practicing with the seal issued by Esvarbon. So if Esvarbon says this is how you must use this seal when it comes to compensation matters, he dare not use it in a way that will not be in the public interest. So what I am trying to say is that a lot of these knotty issues, Esvarbon can resolve it without people running years in court. Esvarbon has a tribunal. That tribunal has not been used effectively so far. That tribunal from inception could have resolved a lot of our problems with respect to land administration, land management, and all these areas of misunderstanding that our appropriate officers do not understand. Once it is in the paper and they have a guideline that they can use, they will not be, bringing up rates, their own rates in one corner that does not apply to the market.
Thank you very much. I would like to give the audience the opportunity, maybe one or two persons that can ask question from the audience. Oh, Prof. Chairman. Mike, please. So let me take the chairman first, then the chairman of BOT. Okay, President. I think somebody is putting up his hand over there. Okay.
Take one by one.
So please bring it to the front there, so that. Give it to the chairman. Thank you, sir.
Professional colleagues, the panelists, I just want to start from the last point made by Otumba. I think you have a nickname. I've forgotten the nickname now. I think you know the president in a cap with what do you call it? The muffler.
Yes, sir.
And Babaniga, yes, you are of the opinion that Esvarbon can resolve a lot of issues. Yes. They say who comes to equity must come with a clean hand. In our last formal communication to the professional body, to our professionals, we did document that our members are own Esvarbon, about 200 million now. You see the Esvarbon, you see the professional who has not paid his or dues that will be bold enough to approach Esvarbon. So let me advise that Esvarbon is ready to do his job if you approach Esvarbon the right way and your hands are clean. And by being clean hand, pay your dues to Esvarbon. First of all, that's the first point I want to make. Then the second point, it will appear that we are oblivious of the reason for land use decree. A major reason, I think it was John Donny Obasanjo, was to minimize payment of compensation. In fact, the comparison was usually made between the land tenure in the north, that state, and in the south. And the complaint was that the quantum of compensation in the south was too much, that it impedes rapid project delivery. So I want us to look at that constraint. And we all agree that valuation for compensation is statutory. You must follow a set law. The land use decree does not recognize, as we speak now, payment for land. You are only to pay for, is it unexhausted rent?
Yes.
And improvement. So I think we need to tackle that issue. And God so good, the new thinking. Before, people were of the opinion that, oh, you can never do anything to land use decree unless you remove it from the constitution. But now, new thinking is emerging that it is an act of parliament. And any act of a parliament can be amended. I think we should be able to pursue that line of thinking, so that, because this issue of markets, something here and there, it is when that constraint is loosened that one can do. And again, the issue of appropriate officer, like our guest speaker today, the character of which you are made of matters. There are some appropriators, when their permanent secretary shouts on them, go and do it like this, they cannot argue with the palm sec. But there are some who can stand their ground. Look, when you want to look at an economic crop, you want to look at a number of parameters, a number of factors, the lifespan, the yield per annum, and so on and so forth. So, number one, let's see how we can tinker with amendment of this act. Then again, we should appeal to our fellow colleagues that, look, you are a professional and God is great. If you lose that job, God will provide another. Try to stand by your opinion. And that's why you are a professional. And that's why we frown at issues when non-essence of law is made an appropriate officer. Because I know that in the past, especially in the early 2000, we used to visit some public agencies like ministry. Who is the director of lands? Is he qualified or not? So, God so good, we have our members largely as appropriate officers. Let us be bold. Let us uphold the ethics of this profession, and let us stand our ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Prof, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, or good evening, all of you. Yeah, the issue of Compensation and Land Use Act needs a radical approach to resolve these issues. I'm happy that Charlotte Emeka was a little bit radical in trying to interpret the provision of Section 29 with the preamble, which is something we have to give a second look and give it a proper interpretation to see whether we have been dozing away our rights or whether we need to sit up and do the appropriate things. Then another thing is that if you talk about rates, which we use, rates cannot be applied, but it's not something that is constant. Just like the one that gave us a letter to do on insurance valuation, that inflation changes things, but the crops we are looking at, you have to look at their output. And most of the things they put, you see like orange, you say orange, 5,000 naira. How much is one orange? How much is one pineapple in the market? Those are things we check. Then look at palm tree. From palm tree, you produce broom, you produce basket, you produce oil, you produce palm kernel oil, you produce palm kernel shell.
And palm wine.
And no, if you are doing palm wine, you can produce palm fruit at the same time. So if you look at the cost, the price of those things in the per annum, you find that you are paying only a peanut to the claimant. So if you want to talk about race, we have to sit down and do a proper study. Not just sitting down and tap race on the paper. Then in Nigeria data, when I did a study followed by Mercator Foundation, we look at their forest. They are extracting 159 species from their forests, what they call non-forest timber products. Not the trees itself. They have insects, we have crawling plants, so many kind of things they eat and they sell. And they're making money out of it. But when you go, you look only at the timber trees and the cash crops and count them. But the non-timber forest products command higher value than all the timbers and the economic trees in the forest. And they're making income. That's why their livelihood is sustained. Then Esvarbon itself has done some job on the issue of compensation. Look at chapter 4 of the new Esvarbon Green Book. Most of us have not even read it. There's a lot of improvement on how to derive compensation payment in Nigeria. Lucky enough, the chairman of this panel, myself, and Abato produced that chapter some years ago. And it can be improved on over the years. But what is there is a good beginning, showing that whatever you are paying should be market derived, not based on sentiments. It is on the Green Book, in the Green Book. Chapter 4 of the Green Book, look at it. It's very comprehensive. Then most of the appellate officers are surveyors. So if the board insists on this standard, the appellate officers should be bound to use the standards in the Green Book in doing their job. Otherwise, they will be expunged.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The President.
Thank you very much. I think the first comment I want to make is about the current effort by some states to have uniform rates or something. I think Anambra, I read that Anambra started it. And I just want to caution this individual approach. This is something I read on the social media, that Anambra State has set up Anambra branch or whatever. They've set up a committee, they are reviewing the rate. Now we'll go to Edo and then Delta, and then we'll be doing it individually, not having a coordination. And at the end of the day, we will come back and say, oh, the institution is not doing anything, the board is not doing anything. I think we need to be very careful. There is this tendency in our institution for individualism, individual activism, as if we can force our way through the system. This is Nigeria, and we are professionals. And the truth of the matter is that let Esvarbon do anything today. If the other people involved have not bought into it, you cannot force your way. It is important for us to understand the limitation of our own strength. And that limitation will now pinpoint us to how to get what we want. And then when we are pushing our own case, there is too much selfishness involved. When people see us, when they hear us, they can easily say, oh, these people are looking for their own benefit. And I think that is not good for us. So, first of all, I want to say that this individual approach, we are going to take it up at our council meeting next month. But I'm just bringing it out here, that it is not good for us. Secondly, I had some interpretation of the Land Use Act. I think we need to be very careful. Preambles are not mandatory interpretative part of the law. They are discretionary options for a judge to make use of when interpreting the main provisions of the law. Just as we have preambles, we have even Hansard, the deliberations. Like the chairman said, that the main purpose of that law, of that Land Use Act, was actually to curb the excessive compensation being paid in the South. Now, a judge that is faced with interpreting what the law says can actually go into that preamble or go to the proceedings of the parliament when that debate was on. So we need to be very, very careful. And I still maintain it, support the chairman of the board. Compensation, valuation is a statutory valuation. And what we need to also understand is that, yes, we want it to be market value based, but there is this belief in us that we are an island. You see, most of the things we want in compensation, we cannot do it alone as a professional. It's not possible. We need to work with other professionals, especially the Nigerian Bar Association, the lawyers. We need to cut them. We need to be objective, and you see, Esvarbon cannot just come out. I heard Otumba in it on saying that the Esvarbon Tribunal, we have not made use of it. Esvarbon Tribunal is not for contractual dispute resolution. It is for disciplinary activities of registered surveyors. You can't you can't say the tribunal should sit on a compensation claim between project affected person and then government. That is ultra vires, because the tribunal is not set up for that. So we need to be careful the way we advance our, grievances and the way we want things done. All of us want progress. We want progress, but we need to understand that we have to be methodical and we have to be honest to ourselves. This is a profession, and we need to take serious care not to cause damage more than the benefit that we want. Because the moment we start to appear to those that we want to appeal to listen to, the moment we start to appear to them as if, we don't know what we are doing, and then they start giving us distance, they won't listen to us, then we'll have problems. So what I want to say in essence is that it is good for us to actually have this sort of brainstorming session. But in achieving what we want, there is a need for us to ensure that we collaborate with other professions, especially the Nigerian, the lawyers are very, very important. And I want to caution, anyway, we're on the board, I want to caution that the board is a regulator, and it needs to understand its limits when it comes to contractual issues at the end of the day, and then even interpretation of the law. We need to be very careful. And the board is a government agency. The board should not do things that to make those who set them up to think that, is there politics going on here? Are they against the government or whatever? But we must be firm. So if we have that collaboration with other professions and we are able to have a common front, then that would be a different matter. But I think we need to be very, very diplomatic, but focused and consistent and professional in what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, because of our time, I think... oh, sorry. Dr. Mrs. Sorry.
I need to make a copy since he pointedly. I need to make a copy.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. My contribution is just a quick one with regards to what Boba said concerning the rates for crops and economic trees. I think they can still do something within the provisions of the law, that it is the appropriate officer that should determine those rates. But the issue is to now interpret and understand how to go about arriving at those rates. Instead of just sitting down, I don't know how they do it, but the rates are usually totally out of sync with the reality. So they can sit together. In fact, it's even a professional job that those in practice can be involved in finding out the value, current value of maybe mango tree, banana tree, and all those things. Carrying out the evaluation, and now discuss from there. You have a team of the land officers. This will now be looked at and arrive at something reasonable, which will be reviewed after maybe every 3 years or 5 years, depending on what the economy is like. I think that's a good way. What they are doing is something that should be encouraged, because it can still be worked around within the provisions of the law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I will give each panelist 1 minute to round up.
I want to appeal that let's round off the way we are now. We still have one more panel to go. And like the last speaker just said, we started with good morning. She's already saying good evening. So I think I want to appeal to the panelists that what we want to do now is to appreciate them. And let's put our hands together for them. I want to call on the president of the institution to come and help us. No, wait, so we can give a photographer. Please, all the panelists can stand together.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman of session.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible to make a 30-second recap?
30 seconds is gone, sir.
If 1 minute is not...
30 seconds.
Okay. Why I want to make this recap is because my name was mentioned, and I'd like to say that there is no need for us to be very careful where decisions have already been decided in court. Where a court of competent jurisdiction has already ruled on a matter, there is no body within Nigeria where the decision of the Supreme Court that can come and say that people should be careful in how they talk.
No.
I mean, so it is not necessary what the president said with respect to issues related to us interpreting what has already been decided in court.
Yeah, I think we don't need any interpretation. I mean, if there are decided cases, we'll go to court and follow the...
it's already decided.
So I mean,
no need for carefulness.
That's for lawyers to decide. Thank you very much. I want to call on Mr. President to come and please help us. I think I should start with Ernest himself so that the president will give him...
Where's the microphone? Where's the microphone? Yes. Where's the short microphone?
I was looking for the person that gave it to me.
Is this one working? Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Please, I stand on the protocol established, and I want to say that this session has been a very wonderful one, and I'm very pleased that the panelists have lived up to the expectation. I've been mandated to give the first appreciation to Otumba, ESV Otumba Shola Eneta. I think you're my good friend, yes. My good friend. Yes. I think your contribution has been very useful, and I think we owe you that appreciation, and the board, on behalf of the board, I present this to you.
You better clap properly.
Next is...
Raji. Yes, Raji.
But Raji, you have not told us how much you collected from that fee, for that 10% of 800 million. This one is making money.
EFCC and ICPC, they are still here.
Did you give Ochendo tithe? Well, on behalf of the board, I have this privilege to present you this plaque for a wonderful presentation. Thank you very much.
I want to call on Ochendo to please come and do for the next two. Ochendo one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. To Raji? No, sir. Yes, Buba. That's why I deliberately don't want to hand over to him, sir.
Are you a PAMSEC or a director?
Say PAMSEC.
Because I know you are. On behalf of the board, I'd like to present this award to you, or the plaque to you, for a wonderful contribution to the discussion this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Moderator.
The man should have two now. He has done a lot of work today. They should have given you two. One as a moderator and the other one as a member of the board. Okay, Mr. ESV Olaleko Akiwumi, it's my pleasure to present this plaque to you. Congratulations.
You take pictures with them, sir.
Yes, Mr. President, have you taken?
No, together with you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for them. For those who have not taken the cases for their plaques, the last session, we're going to take it quickly, and luckily for me, I'm a presenter and also the moderator. So we'll run that in less than 30 minutes, I want to assure you. 20 minutes. Okay, we'll walk through that. I want to call on my boss and lecturer, ESV Dr. U.S. Egwatu. Let's put our hands together for her. I also want to call on our HNS Emeritus, ESV Shola Abeji. Please come in. Yes, maybe we should use that side, Abi. While I think I'll join them there. Thank you, Madam. She's a member of the IVS. I wanted to please quickly run through some of the regulatory, to expose us some of those things. Like you said during the launch, one of the things that this should have done was to open it up to some of the visitors that we had. Next time we'll try to see how we can make that work. Can you please open our minds to just a recap of your papers in like 5 minutes?
Distinguished noble colleagues, good evening, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to share on the topic expository on the Green Book and ethics. Incidentally, two of us are going to talk about it, and I will quickly run down what we have. The essence of the expository is not to train us on how to use the Green Book, but to have an understanding of the contents of the Green Book and encourage people to embrace the studying of the Green Book and to comply with it. There's this saying in Nigeria that if you want to hide something from a Nigerian, put it inside a book. And the Green Book is a household name, and it's in the bookshelf of almost every valuer. But I'm sure many people have not read it. And it's also on the desks of many agencies who use valuation. Thank you. Okay, thank you. It's on the table of so many agencies that make use of valuation, and even regulators of the users of valuation. So what we want to do this evening is to expose the Green Book and the rationale for setting up the Green Book in the first place is because of the fact that in the 21st century, global standards for valuation have continued to evolve in response to the stakeholder requirements and expectations. We all know that because of the globalization, the world is like a global village. And governments and regulators' requirements from valuation have progressively increased. Then expectations of valuation users continues to grow. The users of valuation are more enlightened. It's no longer like those days where you would just say net income this, YP this, capital value this. The clients are more enlightened and they want to understand the entire process of the inputs and from the beginning to your arrival at the required value. So such evolution in the context of global valuation standards takes the form of looking at the professional standards, which is concerned with the knowledge, skills, and competencies that will enable a valuer provide excellent valuation that meets professionalism and integrity. Then technical standards that is underpinned by consistent application through recognized approaches and methods, the evaluation methodology, and then the performance or the delivery standards centered on rigorous analysis and objectivity of judgment backed by appropriate documentation and clarity in our valuation reports. So Esvarbon, as a regulator of valuation in Nigeria, is a strong member of the International Valuation Standards Council. Incidentally, Nigeria is one of the countries that are making impact in their membership of the International Valuation Standards Council. We have Esvarbon as an institution member. We have the NAIVS as a valuation professional organization member. And recently, we have the Financial Reporting Council as a regulator of the audit institution. And all these, we have an opportunity to make strong impact even in setting of the international valuation standards. And that was one of the motivations of the originators of the Green Book, to set the standard that meets international best practice, so that users of valuation in Nigeria or any part of the world, we have that trust and confidence that registered estate surveyors and valuers can provide valuation that meets the best, highest standard of professionalism and ethical practices. So the expected outcome of this, this presentation or expository is to highlight the contents of the Green Book with a view to motivating the Esvarbon registered valuers to embrace and comply with the professional standards, technical standards, and the performance standards. And it's also expected to provide insightful ideas to help both the valuers and the board to see the need for specialization and maybe licensing or valuation sectors. Because the profession is estate surveying and valuation. We discover that a lot of specialization we have been talking about in recent times tends to be more on the side of estate surveying. Valuation needs to be unpacked to encourage specialization in those areas. And the Green Book has provided standards and regulations for different valuation of different assets, which valuers can also tend to work hard on, train more, and get specialized in that. And then on the part of the board can grant licenses in those specialist valuation areas. And then it will also be an opportunity for our users of valuation to understand what that is. So the Green Book has four main different sections. The preliminary, the introduction section gives the preliminary background about the rationale and the need for the standards. And then the other section talks about the international valuation standards, because of the fact that Nigeria has been supporting the development of international valuation standards. Nigeria in the Green Book has adopted the international valuation standards and domesticated it in the Green Book with RICS Valuation Global Standards as a delivery framework. So you have a section on the international valuation standards and then the delivery framework. Then the last section now talks about the new addition, which is a standard that is specific to our local jurisdiction, which is with respect to the statutory valuations. And it is important that we all take time to study those areas and work on it. Then the international, in the Green Book, the current Green Book we have for 2023, we have the International Valuation Standard 2022. The IVS has reviewed that standard. A new one will come out in January 2025. And the board is also in the process of reviewing the Green Book to meet with the latest IVS standards. So, of course, the IVS has set two sets of standards. You have the general standards, which applies to every valuation of all assets. Then there is asset-specific standards. The asset standards are specific to valuation of different kinds of assets. And we already have standards for valuation of real property, for valuation of business assets, for valuation of intangible assets, inventory, and some other ones. And so many other ones are still coming up. And by the time the new standard comes out, there will be more updates. These standards usually respond to the current needs of the society regarding valuation issues. So it is very important. It's a dynamic thing. And standard setting is a dynamic process, which means that valuers will need to keep training and retraining to match the current needs. So at that point, I think I will stop here to allow my co-presenter to highlight some other issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam, for that brief, straight to the point presentation. As estate surveyors and valuers, we must adhere to strict ethical standards. So, ESB, Shola, Abejik, please, can you just give us some little insight to some of those things that the Green Book emphasizes are also encouraged.
Thank you. I also want to thank the first presenter, Dr. Mrs. Egwatu, for that beautiful delivery. Let me start by saying that for us to talk about ethical standards with respect to valuation, it's important that we note that until we ourselves take time to study for ourselves the Nigerian valuation standards, as well as their company standards, then we probably will be dancing around the bush talking about ethics of the practice of valuation. And before I delve in further, let me also say that I also request that, or I will appeal that our lecturers in universities and polytechnics who take the subject of valuation, and indeed courses that relate to our profession, should also take time to update themselves with these standards. I won't mention circumstances or events, but I have seen where, from reports that have come from classrooms, lecturers are still talking about open market value. They are talking about things that these standards have moved far away from, and they are teaching our students. So ethics, to me, a major component is honesty, objectivity, fair judgment. And so to apply honesty in the application of standards, you yourself must understand those standards and be willing to go by those standards. I'll pick, for example, one of the mandatory standards, which is IVSC 101, scope of work. Scope of work requires, as a mandatory standard, that the client and the valuer must agree on the terms of engagement. And the standard requires that that agreement most preferably should be in writing. And what that imports there, and the purpose of that statement is to say that from the time you are giving an instruction or you have an instruction letter, from the end of the valuer, you are to advance a letter to your client stating, under the various heads we have here, the education of the valuer. In other words, I'll give practical scenarios. Under education of valuer, you can say your valuation will be carried out by essay surveyor and valuer Shola Abeji, and go further to reel out a summary of his qualification and competence for that particular assignment, so that the client knows exactly who that valuer is. That's what the standard recommends. It says that you should also clarify the assets to be valued. All this, remember, will be contained in your letter to the client, trying to clarify your instruction. Then the purpose of valuation. I have seen colleagues call me to ask for how to carry out a valuation, and I ask them, what is the purpose? And I get, oh, it's true, what is the purpose? And they say, okay, let me get back to you. That completely is, in relation to the standard, unethical. It's dishonest from the point of the application of the standards. Then we have the basis of the value or premise. We must educate our clients on what we mean by the basis of your valuation and the premise of your valuation. We have cases where we discuss for sale value, and I see valuers just go ahead and just state for sale value. For example, in our firm, in our reports, we take time to explain from the IVSC point of view what for sale value is, and further guide the client to understand that you are talking about premise of value, and that could be orderly liquidation or forced liquidation. Do you understand? And that education has helped our clients to understand that, okay, what I actually need is not actually for sale value. I'm looking for liquidation value, which could be orderly liquidation or forced liquidation. We must continuously engage our clients until they come to that understanding that we have shifted from where we were before. Then you have the nature and extent of valuers limitation. I can't run through everything, but I'm saying that the scope is very key for you to commence any assignment for your clients. And once both parties have agreed, either before you commence the work or in the course of the assignment, it makes it very clear what the valuer should do. And if there should be an amendment of the terms of engagement, IBIC says that it should also be in writing, communicating to both parties that we are amending these terms of engagement for X, Y, and Z reasons. I'll stop here because of our time so that I don't take the whole day.
Thank you very much. Because let's put our hands together for them, please. Because of our time, we want to take one or two comments from the floor, and then we'll just we'll wrap up from here. I will give you room. The bottom line here is that some of our clients don't really know what they really need straight. So as professionals, we can guide them to have their hearts, to go to the point of what they need, so that the answer we are giving them by our report, we meet the exact thing they need, number one. The second thing also, like he said, is the issue of ensuring that those things are communicated in writing. But basically, we need to get used to these green books. They're not just meant for our shelf. They're meant for us to read through so that we're all speaking from the same page as we deliver our service to our clients. So I have number one here. I have number two there. Another person, so I have only two people. So number one, yes, please. Thank you very much. I'm not hearing you. I think the battery is gone off.
Okay. I think mine basically is just around an observation in the industry. And I want to start by thanking those who have put together the Green Book and consistently moving from where we started from to this point. I mean, it's an ongoing conversation, and it means that we are improving as subject matter experts in this space. So back to the observation. If you take a topic or an area of compensation, oil spill, there is that dichotomy between the academia and then the people in practice. And I think that in my own space, we've had challenges with reporting standards and people or colleagues not being able to draw the line between what the standard says and what actually happens in the industry. So I'll give you an example. If you look at compensation, what exactly, where do you draw the line between compensation and then delving into areas that are prescribed by EGASPIN, which is the industry regulatory standard for managing oil spill and restoration of the environment end to end. So what you then get is colleagues taking advantage of that area to bring reports that are questionable, that are below par in terms of reporting, and have failed the test of reasonability because, if for instance, hypothetically you are valuing an oil spill incident, and then you start, putting all sort of heads of claim that are outside the remit of compensation, and these matters end up in court, which we challenge from time to time. It's a total disservice to the profession. I'm not saying that colleagues should not. We've said severally today that this is our remit as professionals. People should respect it. But it then starts from the position of knowledge, from the position of working with other allied professionals in the industry and understanding the real issues and asking questions. So if you go out of your space and present a report that is spurious, that can take you to court, and then you struggle before a judge in the court of competent jurisdiction, it does a lot of disservice for our profession. So I mean, I'm encouraging the board to ensure that the Green Book, I haven't gone through a copy of the current one, and I'm happy to say that I'm even seeing us projecting as far as 2025, which is very good. It shows that we are also improving. Let's caution our members. Let us do a lot of research. Let's not be academic. Find out what happens in the industry itself and try and strike a balance. I think it will help us to grow. It would help us to earn our respect, and we'll be the go-to people all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to assure you that the board, from time to time, give, when people come for an interview with the board, they give us, they donate a copy of the Green Book to the board, and it's not meant for the board to keep in the library. What we now do is that we try, on their behalf, give those books to tertiary institutions so that they can use that to also leverage. And basically, we can see many of the higher institutions now having town and gown, where they call in professionals to come and speak to those little children there. And the collaboration is ongoing, and we're encouraging it. She is the chairman of the education board, committee of the board, and working together with PPC, we ensure that some of these things are done together, and that's why she's talking about the unbundling thing. And on unbundling, we are talking also with schools to see how we can unbundle and make sure that there are routes for specialization for those who are coming behind us, in line with what's going on now in the whole in the whole world, because the world has become a small village. Yes, Mr. President, sir. A comment to that, or you want, or I should take it after him, sir.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that the importance of the Green Book cannot be overemphasized. It's very important. But unfortunately, I don't think up to 10% of us practitioners have actually tried to implement it. Not up to 10%. And I think from the institution is absolutely, I think there is more burning desire to see people, make use of the Green Book than even the board itself. I think in the last 2 years, we've made it compulsory, that those coming for interview at the institution should come with the Green Book. And I think the board is still owing us some copies. You still have our money running into millions.
Please off the mic.
That you have not paid us. No, I need to let you know. So, and what we have been doing is we get this Green Book, apart from sending to our institution, we also give to agencies and organizations, because that is the best way to actually do the advocacy. You see, the board, we cannot leave everything to the board. The institution, even the coming to life of the Green Book was actually cooked at the institution. So we need to actually understand that. Then what I want to say, which both the board and the institution should be prepared for. Most of the evaluation that we are pitching for now, those agencies now have the Green Book, and they have said they are going to hold us to it. I think about 3 weeks ago, we went to Mofi. Mofi is a huge valuation opportunity for us. But I want to tell you that Mofi is going to make use of that Green Book in our reporting. So I don't know how many of us are actually prepared, how many of us practitioners actually comply with the reporting requirements in the Green Book. So if if we have to be serious, I think we need to have a sort of collaboration. I'll be talking to the chairman of the board and yourself to see how we can actually do this reporting, reporting compliance, for our members. Because if they give us these jobs and our reports become, something laughable, it is not just for that person, that firm that reported, it is the profession. And then it takes, you can easily destroy a reputation in 1 minute, but to rebuild it may take years. We are still battling with AMCON, our reputation at AMCON, even though they also have their own contribution to whatever the shortcomings they say they have noticed. So I think we need to take this seriously, because those agencies will now be requiring us, and that is what we want anyway. That is why we have been giving them this book. We give them free of charge, to be honest, and we are still prepared to give more. As soon as you give us the books you are owing us, we would.
I've seen that twice.
Anyway, it's very important that I emphasize it, because it's been almost about 7 months or 6 months.
We're ready now.
Oh, okay, thank you. So that's what I want to contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to assure you that the new copies of the Green Book are available 2024 and incorporates all the current supplements that have been given. The copies are available there. The truck that was bringing those books and our bags actually got spoiled on the way. And we have to actually beg the man in charge of media who was coming on the way to just pick a few of them to bring. So the university press have helped us. So for those who want to pick copies, it's 10,000 naira a copy. You can get if you don't have, it's now outside there. I don't know if they have exhausted the few copies that the media guy helped us to bring. Yes, Mr. Dr. ASB Dr. Bangola, then we will close this session.
Thank you very much, the moderator. I think Mr. President of our institution actually spoke my mind.
Because he's a president?
Yes. I'm trying to think like him too. So, so I think the critical challenge I have, and I think some of them have been mentioned here, especially about some members asking this or that, and you're now saying that, okay, what do you really need this thing for? That has happened a couple of times. But the framework for compliance, because even if you say that, okay, these are the issues, how do you ensure or enforce compliance? I don't think Esvarbon, who should have the power to do that, has that capacity. And that is the reason why everybody can do anything the way they like. Everybody just does it based on what we used to do or what you have learned now, and a lot of our clientele they can't relate. They are seeing report A and B and C, and everything is just different. So there's no common measuring standard. So what I want to suggest, because I'm more about looking at solutions, we, just like the president suggested, I think we used to have what we call a reporting template. If that can be revised to present this, the chairman of the BOT of the institution was also discussing with us and mentioned something about the RICS in those days. They also present, along with the Red Book, a manual for your implementation of the standards and procedures in the Red Book. We need to have something like that that will look at a more simplified version like the reporting template to present it so that everybody knows. I remember when the reporting template came out initially, I think 2017 or so, there was this issue of presenting a certain number of comparables. Quite a number of people complied with that. But going forward, we need something more. Apart from that, for our clientele, I would suggest that we need to Because they may be getting the green book, we are giving it to them, but they may not be reading it as we think they should read it. So will there be, or can there be, a forum that will detail these things for them and break it down for them? It's not going to be something as elaborate as this, but this is more like a classroom, so that we know the people that will review our reports at the back end, they already know what we are talking about. It may even be an avenue for them to say, look, we need to engage some of these people to actually be in our system to ensure that when we are talking to them, we are talking to them on the same platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to give room to Dr. Ewatu to have a short word.
Yes, I just wanted to add, make comment based on the observations by my colleague here and then the last person. The essence of the standard is to bring uniformity and display professionalism. Part of the problems or issues our clients have been complaining about, maybe the banks, everybody knows that they always complain that you give valuation, 3 valuers to carry a valuation of one property or one asset, they come out with different values with wide margin of error, or wide margin, if I may say. That is part of the major problems this use of valuation standard will work. If everybody works or carries out valuation according to standard, in compliance with the standard, we arrive at values that will be within acceptable margin of error, maybe plus or minus 5%. So it is very important that everyone studies that and complies. And our clients have these valuation standards now, the Green Book. Part of the reason why they need to have it is that it serves as a basis for them to evaluate what the reports we are submitting to them. They know that we have a standard, so they can now say when they receive valuations, they will be able to know whether this valuer has complied with the standard. And if he hasn't complied, then they may have reason to reject that, that valuation. And another thing is this issue of bringing out maybe guidance notes on various aspects of the valuation to make it simpler for valuers and even the users of valuation to understand that. But even then, for valuers, being a professional, it is still very important that you start from the source. You must know the major standard, the Green Book, so that you now use the guidance notes to assist in carrying out the evaluation. I know there has been some business groups and the specialization areas, and some of those specialization areas are already working on guidance notes, like for plant and equipment valuation, they're working on the guidance notes for property valuation, and then there are other aspects we are yet to expand to, like business valuation, intellectual property. Those standards are contained in the Green Book, but we still have to go out, go beyond what we know to expand our understanding in the practice of those areas. The major area my colleague here talked about, the knowledge, the academia and the industry. Part of the major problem we have now in valuation, even all over the world, is teaching these standards, the international valuation standards, in the academia. That is the main target of the International Valuation Standard Council now. How to include the teaching of international valuation standards in the university curriculum, so that students learning from the university, by the time they come out to the industry, they already have the basics that we now need to be expanded on. And I now said the organizations that are already members of the International Evaluation Standard Council. There is no academic membership from Nigeria. So those are the areas we're also trying to reach out to make sure that what even the lecturers and the students that are being taught are very much aware of these standards, and everybody is going the same direction, because that way it makes it easier. And the unbundling my colleague has already talked about, those are the things that will also emphasize specialization, valuation specialization, and in-depth knowledge of the practice, skills, competencies that is required for excellent professional practice in valuation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for them. Well, we need to close right away. Like ASB Chudi said, I mean, we should not have more than 5% plus or minus margin of error between two reports, if only we follow the same process to get there and we know what we're doing. And the Green Book is a template that can help us to get that. One of the things we need to do is to openness among practitioners. Some colleagues hide the evaluation from others as if it's a trade secret that others must not know. I mean, are I saying the truth? Let's be open. Let people see your report that you are writing. They can learn from it. And like Mr. President said, the institution and the board can come out together. It may not be a physical meeting like this. We can do a free online workshop for people on the reporting compliance workshops, so to speak. So people will know, as those jobs come, we'll tell these are the things that will be expected of you. These are the ways you can present this. And people can have like a small template of how they can now tweak how they present theirs, but basically everything will be contained in the report. I hope I'm speaking our mind. Thank you very much. So on this note, I would like to say call it a day. We would like to give those who are here. ASV, can we have those awards there? So at least we can recognize those who are here. We appreciate everyone that has been here since morning and those who are online. I'm shocked that people are online, even internationally. People have called from Kogi, from River State, from England, that they have been watching and commending the way we have gone. Many of them are still online than even those who are here physically. I don't know who to call now to come and give these ones out. I think I will call Buba is PAMSEC. Abi? Let's give honor to him to come so that I can give. Let's have Madam Egwatu's. There. That's why I wanted to give to her. Abiji. Okay, one is there. It's good. Me too again. Sorry. Mr. Buma. Me too again. Oh, thank you. So no good photograph like the other ones.
EMSA president. Today, let's EMSA president.
Yes, I beg, let's have pictures.
Yes, yes.
Mr. President, sir, please welcome you to join me. Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Your teacher. Change this. One chairman, sir. One chairman. So, so thank you very much. I want to call on ESV Lekon to come and give a vote of thanks. Or is the registrar around? Registrar, please, can you do the vote of thanks so that we can?
Thank you very much, my chairman. The chairman of the board, past president and the BOT president, noble colleagues, I really to appreciate your patience for this year Valuers Assembly. We appreciate your contribution, the discussions that we have this day. And I also appreciate your feedback so that we can also re-strategize for next year's Valuers Assembly. It's just to make our profession better. Thank you very much, and I wish you a safe trip back to your destination. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate everyone. Board member emeritus.